Dear Diary, may the energy from this week bring many blessings to the weeks coming after. Welcome back to another week of my audio and visual diary. Dear Diary, this was a pretty laid back week, but it had some really great loving pockets. Well, for one, this week was playoff and championship week for one of the leagues that Leila is playing in. We absolutely had no doubt that she was going to make it to the championship game. This game is actually the playoff, the semifinals game. And this move right here kind of solidified their place in the championship. And baby, when I tell you the teams were scared, they were scared. You'll see more about that later. So, Diary, I've been more intentional about the creative and loving spaces I've been putting myself in. For example, I've been seeking out more creative content on YouTube. Now, I do watch creative content. I watch Homeworthy. I watch, content of people who live in their lifestyles in different ways and manners. But also, I wanted to seek out history. I wanted to seek out more how-tos. I wanted to seek out things that stretch my mind and challenge my mindset. So I've been seeking out some more content on YouTube and on TV to really expand my mind. And like I said, I've been seeking out more loving spaces. So on this night, I went to a restaurant called Flambeau with my sister, which was delicious and bomb. It was great to have a little chat session, catch up session over some delicious food and drinks. And then the next morning, a loving space found me. Maurice wanted to cook me breakfast, so he got some steak, eggs, and asparagus. He whipped it up all by himself. I mean, the man can cook. He takes a lot away from his cooking ability, but he can cook. He can throw down. So he made us breakfast. Layla happened to stay home that day. It was a Friday, the Friday before or the Friday of her championship game. So we were like, okay, just let her stay home. Let her rest and relax. She didn't have a lot of stuff going on in school that day. She took a self-care day. And I thought that was important before a championship game. Rest your mind and body. But dear diary, why did nobody on the opposing team show up for this championship game? I told you my girl had them scared, okay? So when we showed up, a parent was like, okay, so apparently only 3 to 4 kids are supposed to be showing up for this. We were like, what? And he was like, not even the coach is coming. Apparently, the soccer season had just started that week, and they were picking soccer practice over a championship game. What does that tell y'all? What does that tell you, diary? Come on, nobody shows up. Oh yeah, and then nobody showed up. Not even those 3 to 4 players showed up. No coach, no players. So they ended up having a kids versus parents game, and then they split the team, let them scrimmage against each other. But they won the championship by default, which is also always an icky feeling because who wants to win that way? You want to compete, right? And for nobody to show up, nobody says a lot. Dear diary, going into this week, I had my mind set on accomplishing making pasta. Now, there is a backstory to this. Y'all know that I can cook. There is no doubt about that. No questions. These are not questions that need to be answered, right? But there are certain things that I've been petrified to even try to cook at the risk of failing cooking them. And I feel like this plays into part of my toxic perfectionism, meaning that there are things like pasta never attempted before this week. Bread have never attempted. I'm afraid to cook those things because those are my absolute favorite foods on earth. Like I love me a carb. I'm afraid to cook them because I'm afraid to fail at them and of course fail at them publicly. But I feel like I'm in such a new mind space when I'm creating and when I'm doing things for myself, even for self-care, that who the heck cares who's watching? Like, I'm okay with like failing publicly or not. It's not even a failure. I tried, so it's impossible for it to be a failure because I'm trying, right? But before this mindset, I was just like, I can't touch it. Like I was just petrified to even touch it. I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds small. I was just petrified to even attempt it. So much so, leading up to this the night before, like I had this huge pit in my stomach. It's like, honestly, guys, this is a Saturday. This is all I had planned for today. Maurice had practice. Leila and Maurice had practice. They were running scrimmages at the Boys and Girls Club later that afternoon. So I had a full day to really play around with this, be creative in the kitchen. So like that pit in my stomach was directly a result of thinking about making pasta. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like I I was nervous. Like it's just something that I want to get right. It's just something that I want to get right so bad. So, diary, what did I do to force myself into doing this? Well, one, I told the internet. For me, I have to publicly tell people that I'm about to do something for me to really attempt it, because then that holds my feet to the fire or whatever to the fire and forces me to get it done. Because I cannot stand the fact that I said something and I'm not following through. So, one, I told the internet. Yeah, I did. And not even that I care that much about what the internet thinks. It's just that people know that I was going to do it or said that I was going to do it. So now I have to do it. Number two, I planned an event around it, right? So like, I planned an event that is, that the pasta is crucial too. This is the main dish. If I don't make this pasta, we won't eat at the event. I mean, we probably will order out, but that's neither here nor there. The pasta is the star. I planned an event around it. So I said, guys, we have a free Saturday afternoon or evening. We've been wanting to update our album wall. We got so many new cool albums that we wanted to incorporate. How about we have a little album wall update, refresh, dinner party? So I said, okay, great. This will give me an excuse to make those bacon wrapped scallops Leila has been begging for weeks. And then that will accompany this lobster stuffed ravioli that I've been craving ever since last year's dinner en blanc in Philly, where we had to pick up some last minute food from a random spot downtown, which turned out to be the most perfect meal on earth. It was delicious. My tongue has literally been watering for it since. So I said, okay, when I learn how to make pasta, this is absolutely the first pasta that I want to learn to make. I do want to point out I'm making the lobster ravioli as my first pasta attempt. I want to point out that I'm always consistently trying to challenge myself. Like I could have just made a fettuccine pasta or something simpler as my first take. I said no. You're either going all the way or you don't go at all. That's just how I run my life. It's hectic a lot of the times, but it works for me. I needed this challenge. I needed to see that I could do it. So I did it. And girlfriends and guy friends, I'm just proud of myself for attempting this. Part of me telling the internet about this was gathering advice and like tips on making pasta. So I put it out there like, hey, I'm sure I could find a great pasta recipe. I'm sure. But what are some essential do's and don'ts? Like, what are things that are going to make my mind at ease during this process, make it a little bit easier to follow through with this process? And I got some awesome advice, some of which included some really simple pasta recipes or tips to remember when making pasta, because pasta is really quite simple once you really get into it. Like, a couple of the comments that I got about the ratio from flour to egg, I mean, now it's like drilled in my mind. That's how simple it is. And I was like almost kicking myself, like as I knew I would when I would, be working through the process. Like, Janae, you could have done this a long time ago and done it perfectly and be a fucking pasta savant by now. But, everything is in due timing. I wasn't meant to touch pasta until now. And I honestly, like I said, I'm grateful to everybody that commented and gave me those great tips, because it made this process so simple and easy and made me want to replicate it over and over again. I was so blessed to have that full day to work this out and work through this, because I did not want a high pressure situation whereas I was in the kitchen for 2 hours. I needed to bust this out. I wanted to do it over time, and it felt so good doing it over time. I got it done exactly at the time I wanted to get it done. We were starting this dinner party around like 6ish. Boom, was done around 6ish. Got the table set. We jumped into it. Everything just worked out so seamlessly. And y'all, the pasta came out perfectly. Husband was over the moon. He was like, yo, like, you should have been doing this. Like, this is so good. Like, I'm so glad that you trusted yourself. We ended that night with some friends spontaneously coming over to have some drinks, which I absolutely love and want to do more of. I want to take a step back from these orchestrated, heavily detailed, and planned events and just have kickbacks. People just slide through. It's laid back. And that takes me into my next week. Like, I want to start to incorporate more of that into my week and more of that into just my overall life. As March Madness is beginning, it's presenting some great opportunities together. Like I'm thinking maybe a really cool and quick kickback, just grab some food real fast and watch the games. Dear Diary, I'm realizing that living my life in this extremely creative and loving way is my definition of soft living, and I'm leaning more into that. Until next time, Diary.